How lucky are we? We get to create ourselves. A statement by Lulu Ferocity, a transgender woman played by a transgender actress from the series Pose. But how strong does that statement hold exactly, especially for transgender people? When according to the Human Rights Campaign in the US, more than 300 anti-LGBTQIA+ bills have been proposed as of 2022. From the bans on which bathroom transgender people can use, gender-affirming healthcare, to the ban of trans people in competitive sports. Just as much as we are seeing more and more representation of LGBTQIA+ figures in the media and on the streets, it is clearly evident from these legislators that the hate still goes on. Specifically on the field of sports, the state of Idaho, along with 18 others, passed bans on trans youth. Its goal was to protect women in sports, but some states also passed bans on trans masculine kids. From this growing problem, our house, the House of Abundance, has taken its stance on the issue of banning transgender people in sports. We advocate for the inclusion of transgender people in sports, as the action also asks for their proper treatment, which allows them to be represented for their skills, and it benefits both cis and transgender people. If you are unfamiliar with the word cis, it just means that whatever gender you are now is the same as what was presumed for you at birth.
Advocating for the inclusion of transgender people in sports should also push for their proper treatment.
Everyone should be able to participate in sports safely without discrimination, regardless of gender identity, expression, and or sex variation.
And after that, the IOC regulation from 2016 state that
genital surgery is required to just compete as per the rule of hormone regulating guidelines.
Based on the report that was released last year, the inclusion of transgender people should not require gender reassignment surgery just to be included. To know of anyone's genital, it calls for an invasive inspection. Every gender that we have must be treated with respect and in proper manner, especially those trans women and trans men. They should be respected with the gender they identify with, and the others should also respect for the gender they choose. Being respected and treated fairly will also make them happy. Nothing about the person's gender should matter when it comes to sports, because as long as they play by the rules and follow their instruction, everything should be fine.
As a continuation to the advocacy, it allows transgender people to be seen and represented for their skills. The NCAA allowed transgender athletes to compete and participate at the collegiate level in 2011. In its transgender handbook, the NCAA refuted the notions that people born male would have an edge over females and that men would pretend to be trans females to gain a competitive advantage. By this, the people have an example of inclusivity in sports. Although there is no full scope on the actuality of what goes on, this stands as an example of letting transgender people be. A display of their actual skills are allowed instead of their whole storyline being about trans. So we ask other leagues inside and outside the country to consider opening up to transgender people in participating in sports events.
The inclusion of transgender people in sports also benefits cisgender people. The process of sex verification, in which an athlete will undergo through tests that will verify them of their sex, from hormone testings to more invasive procedures. Male privilege is a thing though, even for transgender men. This is also true in sports, as there are little to no reports of sex verification in male athletes, other than the hormone testing. With cis and transgender women, however, is where the problem starts to build. You see, Caster Semenya was assigned female at birth, but because of her rare condition, she had an elevated amount of testosterone that prevented her from competing. Because of this, it was deemed that her situation was unfair to the other women in sports. But at the same time, why do we praise Michael Phelps, who has twice the lung capacity of an average human, when he was simply born that way? It is also the same when people push tall individuals to play basketball because of their physical advantage. But the moment that individual is trans or is intersex, because of their, or if they are intersex, with those same qualities, the people are quick to change their minds. You see, Caster Semenya was born this way, in the same way that Michael Phelps is born. Caster Semenya is being profiled. She's assigned female at birth, but she's deemed too masculine. Someone like her should not have to defend her womanhood just because of standards that do not accommodate the diversity of people.
Physical strength is the primary reason why transgender people is not allowed to participate in sports. This should not be a hindrance for transgender individuals to be noticed and acknowledged for their abilities. Lean body mass, explosiveness, endurance, and depending on the sport, additional crucial abilities like hand-eye coordination or flexibility are among these elements. Just because a person is a transgender does not guarantee them that they will be taught or distinctively shaped for their activity. Without a compelling reason, people should not exclude transgender individuals from athletics, but instead, the author ought to take an objective stance towards this problem and assess the potential remedies in light of science. And science says that pushing gender into a binary will not work.
Pushing for the inclusivity of transgender people in sports ensures their safety from extreme profiling, gives them visibility and a platform to speak on, and creates a space that can accommodate the diversity of people. Through spreading awareness, the people can call out the wrongdoings behind the scenes and start the inclusion of transgender people in different sports events and professional spaces. When the people start to give transgender people the platform to speak on, it begins to open more doors for other people that exist outside the binary on what the people tend to perceive as male or female, masculine or feminine. So, let me ask you, the audience, are transgender people really a threat in sports, or is it the people who have made a system that is running in bigotry and hatred?